back to market headlines. So throughout 2020, many news about the economy and business in Indonesia have attracted attentions. Starting from the flood disasters at the beginning of the year, a COVID-19 pandemic which had impact to the economy, and the reshuffle of the ministers in Indonesia Maju cabinet.
The year 2020 began with floods, where floods hit several areas in Indonesia, including Jakarta, Depok, Tangerang, and Bekasi on New Year's Eve until January 1st, 2020. Various economic activities were disrupted, such as logistics, land transportation, air, trains, warehousing to electricity. Still at the beginning of the year, on January 14, 2020, the Attorney General's office named 5 suspects in the case of Asuransi Jiwasraya, including President Director of Hansen International, Beni Cokro Saputro, and former President Director of Asuransi Jiwasraya, Hendrisman Rahim. And not long ago, in early March 2020, the first case of COVID-19 was found in Indonesia, which also infected a number of state officials, such as Minister of Transportation Budi Karya Sumadi and Minister of Manpower Ida Fauzia. And it was the starting point for Indonesia to officially fight the COVID-19 pandemic. And to deal with the pandemic, the government has directly allocated a budget of 695.2 trillion rupiah. Not finished with the pandemic issue, on October 5, 2020, the House of Representatives finally approved the Job Creation Bill to become a law, which of course invites pros and cons. A few days later, the people who were members of the student and labor movement held a massive demonstration against the Job Creation Bill. Meanwhile, 2020 was closed with President Joko Widodo's decision to reshuffle several ministerial posts in the Indonesia Maju cabinet. From a number of new faces in the cabinet, there are at least several new names in the cabinet's economic post, such as Sandiaga Uno as Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy and Tri Risma Harini as Minister of Social Affairs. From all sources, for IDX Channel.
2020 brings many stories, and not only stories, but also changes in all aspects in people's life. And the spread of coronavirus has changed many plans, and I bet it changed your plans as well, as the world economic situations also Indonesia. And so, what is the reflections of Indonesia's economic conditions throughout 2020? So let's see through the data in the next following infographics. Through your screen, we can see the Indonesia's economic growth year on year. First of all, we can see the first quarter of 2019, which is in the level of 5.07%. But however, the number went lower and lower, especially in the first quarter of 2020, which reached only 2.97%, and it plunged again into the third quarter of 2020 to be minus 3.49%. So here it is, Indonesia has entered the recessions, but I would like to highlight some things in here through your graphic. Through your screen, we can see that in the third quarter of 2020, Java Island contributed almost 50% of the GDP of Indonesia, and for sure, it contributed a growth of minus 4%. And I would like to highlight one thing as well. Here it is. We can see that in the third quarter of 2020, the only sector that gained performance, a good performance, is only agriculture by positive 2.1% year on year. And until the third quarter, it made Indonesia officially experience its first recessions in the 22 years. So 2020 is really iconic. One of the main factors was the level of the household consumptions, which experienced a significant slowdown until the third quarter of 2020 at the level of minus 4.4% year on year. But however, the government stated that the economy in the third quarter was still considered positive. It is because the Indonesian's economy has shown a positive sign despite experiencing a recession. So, as expressed by the coordinating minister for the economy affairs, Erlangga Hartarto, who believes that Indonesia has passed the bottom phase and is slowly starting to improve. And not only experiencing an recession in 2020, Indonesia also recorded the lowest interest rate in the history. So we'll see the data in the next graphic. Through your screen, we can see central bank rate. this is not even a fluctuations, this is a downtrend. First of all, in the January, it's standing still by 5%. But however, as the months go by, it went down and lowering down. And so in total, Bank Indonesia has cut interest rates by 5 times of 125 basis points in 2020. And here it is, the result is now in the 3.75%. And if we take a look at the interest rate of the consumer price index, we can see that the index is going to slow as well. And Bank of Indonesia's governor, Peri Warjio, stated that the low interest rate trend will continue as long as the inflation has not shown any signs of increasing, where Minister of Finance Sri Mulyani even predicts that the inflation rate throughout 2020 will not be, well, it's only be 1.5%. Not only about the interest rates, the central bank has flowed a lot of stimulus to the market during COVID-19 pandemic, namely liquidity injections or quantitative easing into the banks, and also willingness to central bank to share the burden with the government in burden sharing scheme to handle fiscal deficits. And yes, viewers, not only fiscal and monetary matters, in the year 2020 was also marked by the presence of the job creations law. Yes, which has invited controversy. And to be clear, let's go to the next graphic. Through the next graphic, we can see the ratifications of the job creations law. I would like to highlight some points in here. It consists of 11 clusters, which is simplifying the land permits, investment requirements, and employment is of doing business, research innovation support, government administrations, impositions of sanctions, control of the land, and its government projects, and also special economic areas. Those are the contents of the job creations law, which is ratified by 5th October 2020. And amid the controversy, it's really well designed to solve Indonesia's problem because the country is a kind of complicated to do business, as the government say, and therefore the government is working hard to improve Indonesia's ease of doing business ranking. Not only that, the job creation is expected to overcome cartels, monopolistic practices, and the strategic business sectors, and prevent the culture of corruptions in the private sector. And meanwhile, the government explained that it is currently discussing about derivative regulations for the job creations law, where there are about 44 derivative regulations whose target is to be implemented in the February 2021. So let's just look forward to the role of job creations law in supporting the economy in 2021, shall we? And meanwhile, in 2020 is also recorded as the year of the rise domestic investors in Indonesia's capital market. We will check the data in the next graphic. Here it is. We can see through the next graphic about the positive achievement of Indonesia's capital market. So we can see there are 3 achievements so far about the additions of the new investors that reach 3.6 SID, which is the increase of 48%. And the next one, we get to know about the dominations of the domestic investors, which reaches above 50%. This is larger than the foreign investors. And the third one is the average daily transactions value that is increasing as the time goes by. And amidst the pressure of the pandemic and recession, the Indonesian's capital market will also be able to post another positive record, including the average frequency of transactions in 2020, increasing by 31.98%. to be 619,000 transactions, or the highest achievement in the history. That in terms of demographic, the Indonesia Stock Exchange revealed that the investor aged 18 to 25 years old and 25 to 30 years have experienced the highest cumulative increase in 2017 to 2020 period. Especially for the year, the number of new investors aged 18 to 2020 has increased by 211,000 investors, or reaching 43.23% of the total of the new investors in 2020. Marvelous. And regarding that, IDX Development Director Hasan Fauzi stated that those positive achievements cannot be separated from the involvement of all Indonesians' capital market stakeholders. And yes, so viewers, with the development of the COVID-19 vaccine, we hope that it will be able to become a game changer in 2021 and become a major booster for Indonesia's health and economic recovery. Stay tuned to Market Headlines because we will be right back after this quick break.